Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first Fleet LatAm webinar aimed at inspiring and educating fleet managers who are responsible for coming up with the most effective fleet and mobility solutions in the Latin America region. This training session is just one of 4 pillars which make up the Fleet LatAm platform. The others being our online coverage with features such as Wikifleet and our directory, our monthly newsletters, and our events with the Fleet LatAm expert meetings. My name is Daniel Bland, editor of Fleet LatAm, and I'll be moderating this webinar thanks to the support of Geotab. Before talking about how to deploy telematics in your fleet, you must address why it is necessary. Basically, you face risks when operating your fleet, and these risks must be mitigated. The largest of them is traffic accidents, resulting in approximately 1.3 million deaths and 20 to 50 million injuries per year worldwide. And this threatens much more than just drivers. In Brazil alone, Latin America's largest vehicle fleet, approximately 433,000 accidents occur every year, causing 45,000 deaths. And according to Brazilian Research Institute IPEA, this results in more than $10 billion in costs annually. So you must be aware of driver behavior, in addition to other things such as vehicle theft when managing your fleet. In the end, this will not only save lives, cutting down on accidents will give your company uptime, resulting in more productivity and the overall reduction of TCO. One of the key strategies, of course, is to implement telematics in your fleet. To give us a better idea of the subject matter we are counting on the insights of 3 experts today. They will tell us a bit about success stories pertaining to the corporate driver behavior and driver safety improvements which have been implemented in their companies. Following their talks, we will have lively Q&A session which will give you, the listeners, a chance to ask questions to our speakers. To ask your question, please send them via the chat function of the webinar tool. So let me now introduce our experts. First, we are happy to have Eduardo Granda, who is the Associate VP for Latin America for multinational telematics firm Geotab. Before starting with the Canadian-based company in 2013, he was the North Andes Regional Manager for US-based technology company Eastman Kodak and Carrier Marketing Manager for the LatAm region for BlackBerry. Also joining us is David Escobar S, who is the CEO of Latin America Fleet Management and Administration company Navisaf. Mr. Escobar has also been a telematics added value developer based on efficiency and productivity for more than 12 years. And last but not least, we are happy to welcome Oscar Hoyos, who is a mechatronic engineer and monitoring manager for multinational beverage and brewing company AB-InBev. Mr. Hoyos is also a 9-year expert in the routing and monitoring of transport control towers. So to start off, I'd like to hand you over to Eduardo Granda. Hello, Eduardo. If you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning, everyone. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about safety statistics. Besides of the information that Daniel already provided, we know that there's over 115,000 road fatalities per year in Latin America, and that safety regulations need development. Ecuador and Chile are ranked in first and second place respectively, having the highest vehicle safety standards, including front and lateral collision protection. And as another example, Peru's regulations are not strict because they require only basic features such as brakes, windows, and bumpers. Now, there's been some other interesting safety initiatives, like, for example, the United Nations has established a decade of road safety, which was officially proclaimed in the General Assembly in March 2010, seeking to save millions of lives by building road safety management capacity, improving the safety of road infrastructure, and further developing the safety of vehicles. Another one is that the new car assessment program for Latin America, or Latin NCAP, aims to raise vehicle safety awareness and encourage citizens to purchase safer vehicle models, while also influencing manufacturers to increase vehicle safety standards. To give you an idea, vehicle tests in 2010 showed that LatAm stopped selling cars with 20 years behind in safety measures when compared to those in North America and Europe. And finally, according to the Global Road Safety Partnership, countries such as Mexico and Colombia have targeted a 50% reduction in vehicle collision fatalities by 2020. Next slide, please. So let's talk about MyGeotab, our open and expandable platform. Our award-winning MyGeotab web-based telematics software platform is open and expandable. It's customized to cover your fleet management needs today and scalable to cover your needs tomorrow. The Geotab solution is based in 5 pillars. First of all, productivity. You can't manage what you don't measure. You have to understand where assets are utilized, and as another example, you can use it to measure routing, planned versus actual. The second pillar is fleet optimization. Here you can track fuel savings, manage idle time, speeding and mileage, fuel card integration, preventive maintenance, remotely diagnose engine fault codes, identify underutilized assets, a recorded odometer and engine hours for each trip automatically and accurately. The third pillar is safety, and this is the main focus of this webinar, so we will go further into that in the next slides. The fourth pillar is compliance of legal regulations. We have an electronic logging device solution that is compliant with the U.S. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or FMCSA, to track drivers' hours of service. Also, Driver Vehicle Inspection Report, or DVIR, which is a formal record confirming that a driver has completed an inspection on a commercial motor vehicle. And finally, International Fuel Tax Agreement, or IFTA, which is an agreement between 48 states of the United States and the Canadian provinces to simplify the reporting of fuel use by motor carriers that operate in more than one jurisdiction. The fifth and final pillar is expandability, which includes Geotab's input-output expanders, or IOX, as well as software developer kit, or SDK, and add-ons. Next slide, please. Let's talk about an example, a success story of a leading pest control company with more than 50,000 vehicles in its fleet, which saved $28 million by their third year of operating with Geotab. Their objective was to reduce claims and costs for accidents that amounted from 80% of total company income and reduce them to less than 2%. The solution was to involve the fleet, human resources, finance, and administration areas. So when that was done, we started to monitor driving behaviors with habits like speeding, use of company vehicles after working hours, where the drivers would get together after working 9 to 5, to have food and drinks, and later they would hit the road, drive, and an accident will happen. Safety belt use, engine idling, and harsh braking. The results were, besides saving $28 million in the third year, that more than $10 million were saved due to accident reduction. More than $3 million were saved in annual fuel consumption by reducing the need to drive 15 million excess miles, and more than $100 million increase in total revenues without the need to increase the fleet size. Next slide, please. So it's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to prevent than to regret. Let's talk about accident prevention. To prevent parking lot accidents, vehicles should park in reverse and exit moving forward, not the opposite. Geotab's patented technology identifies vehicle in reverse motions and gives drivers a reminder to be extra cautious during this activity. Talking about accident detection, our solution provides automatic accident retrieval and reconstruction. Our data is so trustworthy that it is used for court cases where Geotab acts as an expert witness or helping the defense. Backup detection, both through the Go device's accelerometer as well as engine data. When an accident has been detected, an instant notification is sent to the fleet manager, either by email or text. And lastly, we have an accident reconstruction add-in in the Geotab marketplace, which is free to use for end users. Next slide, please. Now, talking about expandability, the IOX GoTalk, or simply GoTalk, is an in-vehicle driver coaching add-on that enhances driver and fleet safety by providing spoken word alerts to drivers while on the road in real time using state-of-the-art text-to-speech technology. The GoTalk was a gold winner at the Golden Bridge Awards in 2016. Companies can improve their bottom lines with a noticeable drop in accidents and tickets because that will lower insurance and workers' compensation claims, as well as vehicle repairs. And here the goal is to use the rules to reduce chances of accidents from happening by enforcing safe driving habits. Next slide, please. Here I want to briefly show you which are the safety rules in MyGeotab. First of all, harsh braking, hard acceleration, harsh cornering, speeding, seat belt, after hours usage, and possible accident. I would like to provide some details here in possible accident. This rule will trigger if the Go device's accelerometer detects a change of more than 2.6 G-force in the forward braking or side-to-side direction. If possible, the device will send detailed forensic information about position, speed, and acceleration of a vehicle. Next slide, please. With more than 1.3 million vehicles installed, we collect over 3 billion records per day and have the richest telematics dataset in the entire world, consisting of engine data, GPS data, accelerometer data, and more. We think of these data points as sensors that help us unlock a suite of intelligence data about our world. True intelligence data about our world can only be gained from leveraging large and rich volume of data from various sources, and telematics data can help us achieve this goal. Let us now talk about big data, an ecosystem that will thrive with large amounts of data from a wide variety of sources, which are anonymous and openly available for collaboration. Next slide, please. So allow me to introduce you data.geotab.com. Fully launched in June 2018 during our Geotab Connect event in Toronto. It provides free access to aggregate data in 3 categories: weather, urban infrastructure, and location analytics, as well as white papers and code samples with business use cases and technical how-tos. Next slide, please. Our team of data scientists and engineers have curated our data repository and have created a series of 10 near real-time and historical data sets under the 3 previously mentioned categories. Let's take a closer look at 2 of them. Next slide, please. The road impediments dataset uses onboard accelerometer located within Geotab's telematics Go devices to help identify potential road impediments. Geotab refines these data to remove anomalies and outliers from the published dataset. Some use cases for road impediments data are preventive maintenance and pavement preservation, route optimization, and mapping road conditions. Next slide, please. Around the world, over 1 million people die every year as a result of road traffic crashes, according to a study conducted by the World Health Organization. This number does not include the massive amount of non-fatal injuries and vehicle damage. As economies develop and the global population continues to rise, the sheer volume of traffic accidents will continue to be a growing concern. Municipalities are already aware of the locations of significant road collisions from access to police reports. But imagine if there was a way to also know the areas in the city where vehicles experience near misses. This information could be used not only to identify areas that are prone to incidents, but to prioritize them and develop risk mitigation strategies in the form of new signage, road improvements, and more. Geotab's hazardous driving areas dataset provides exactly this type of information. Using this dataset, Geotab publishes real-time and historical incident data, which captures both accident and near-miss events. The dataset is updated once a month and encompasses 1 year of rolling data. This is starting from the previous month and going back 1 year. In addition to providing measurements and metrics around driving incidents and traffic flow, the dataset generates a single, normalized, real-value severity score for ranking hazardous driving areas. Thank you, Daniel. I have finished with my portion.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Eduardo. It's interesting, a lot of information to think about there. So now we give you David Escobar from Navisaf. Go ahead, David.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you to everyone to join us at this exposure, this workshop. So basically, we are going to talk on how we can humanize data. Geotab is a really good add-value reseller, and basically, our success is based on humanizing data. We work with people, we work with the communication inside our customers, and of course, we get really serious point of view of the difference between the culture in each country, which are based on the reality of Latin America countries, are really different to Europe, are really different to the United States, and of course, from the side of architecture, of the cities and the roads, we have really different architecture. So basically, the three main variables that we measure to make a basic and really good impact safety improvements are speeding, harsh cornering, and harsh braking. So in any telematics provider, you can find some of this information, but the way that Geotab measured this information make a huge difference here. And we are going to find out in these 5 minutes how with Geotab you can improve this. So next slide, please. So everything has to be measured, of course, and Geotab has a unique way to show the information, allowing to the customer to customize every report using something as simple like Microsoft Excel and tools that we all already know. That so from the side of Geotab, it's really easy. But the most important thing here is how you communicate to the interest one the information. So when we are talking about Geotab and Navisaf and some corporate companies like AB-InBev, they design their own reports, but everyone inside of the customer company, at the end customer, knows each KPI, how are they going to be measured, and what are the rewards or the disciplinary acts on that behavior over the vehicle. So basically, the architecture of Geotab moves everything second by second to the database. We are talking about GPS, we are talking about vibrations, G-forces in 3-axis. All that data moves to the server, and when you get that information into the Geotab server, you do something really cool. You create a rule, a really simple rule to identify these 3 variables: speeding, cornering, and harsh braking. The early earnings and the fastest ROI of each operation based on safety is found with these 3 variables. So we are going to find why each one of them are really important. Next slide, please. So for example, cornering. Basically, you can go into the cities or outside the cities, and has a different meaning in each one. For example, for last mile operations, the cornering are made because when the trucks are inside the neighborhoods and the streets are really short, when the vehicle is turning to the left or the right, get a bump and moves the vehicle the side to side. So Geotab identifies that as a harsh cornering, but the reality here is, of course, it's a harsh cornering, but it's because the vehicle is bumping at the side of the street. So that damage a lot the lifetime of the tires. So when you are talking about the suspension, transmission endurance, and the tire uptime and lifetime, you can save up to 10% avoiding this kind of behavior inside the cities. When you are talking about cornering in long distance vehicles, class 8 vehicles, it's a different way to see this information, because when you have a harsh cornering, are really sure, you can be really sure that the driver was in a risky condition. And that happens when the driver reacts in an overpass or gets slipped or get distracted inside the vehicle. So all of these behaviors affect a lot the exposure to the risk. So basically, you start to understand if you have a class 8 vehicle or a long distance vehicle, the meaning of the cornering is really different, and you can design a scorecard based on what operation do you have. So why this is important? Because it's something here around all this data is how to manage and how you humanize that data. Basically, we have psychologists to understand why the drivers are making this kind of behavior in the vehicle. and they work with the worst drivers just before get fired that driver. A lot of them, maybe 90% of them, has effects in their heads, and our psychologists work really good with them. So it's more expensive to fire a man and contract a new one and train them that fix the one who is making bad things. That is something really important here. And of course, every crash that you have can go up to 50 days of the vehicle, 15 days of the vehicle downtime. So it's not a business to have an accident, not at all. Here in Latin America, each hour of each vehicle can go up to $25 an hour when the vehicle is stopped. So of course, it's really important to avoid any accident. Next slide, please. Daniel, thank you. Now, braking. Everyone measures braking. And as I said, Geotab measures everything in a really different way. So basically, we are talking about the same structure, last mile. In last mile, this affects tires and the suspension. We were talking about the 10% of lifetime of the most sensitive parts. And the fuel consumption here is really important. We have to get clear on some concept. When you push the brakes, you are wasting all the energy that you need to move that vehicle to the desired speed. So basically, the best driver, in a simple message, is the driver that do not use the brake pedal. That is the best driver. Of course, you have to use the brakes, because if not, you are going to get crashed. But the amount of time in each road that you use the brakes in certain time frames defines how the driver is going, and of course, in less time at times that the driver pushed the brakes, more time they get in cruise speed, and of course they get less fuel consumption. We have some important tests here, and we can ensure that we have customers that get improved the 50% of fuel savings when the driver starts not to use the brakes and select the right speed. In long distance is the same thing. The most important here is that if you are going into small road, that is very, very common in Latin America, the most important here is not to overpass and try to get the traffic speed, the average traffic speed, where you don't push the brakes. If you have to start pushing the brakes more than X times in a minute, you are making a bad operation. You are selecting the bad speed, and you have anxiety. So when you measure this, you can identify which drivers are the most anxiety, have the anxiety issues, and you work with them, and you find out that the fuel savings pay everything. So next slide, please, Daniel. And of course, big data is the most important thing here. The speed definitely is the most important and critical aspect in fleet management from the side of safety. But the speeding has not to be exactly the signature in the street that says you can go to 30 miles per hour or something like that, and you have to reach out that limit. You cannot go up that limit. That is a bad concept, because in some moments, in some time frames of the day, you are going to find out that even if you go under the speed limit, you start to see a lot of harsh braking. Here, I'm showing you, for example, in the right image, the first one at the right, the zones in Bogota where a certain customer operation hit the brakes a lot of times. And with big data in heat maps, you can identify where the drivers are making the harsh braking. What allows you to see? Basically, the speed limit over that point are, of course, that has a bad setup. So our strategy based on big data are to identify these points where everyone is braking and create a geofence with a new speed limit over the global speed limit rule. So with this point and Geotab hardware called IOX GoTalk, basically when the vehicle get inside that zone, alerts to the driver, okay, David, please, you are getting into the 35 miles per hour zone, please take the speed down. And then the driver, of course, go get the speed down, and in all that points that I'm showing to you, the driver are going to be less exposed to the risk. So here is really important to be take care of how you interpret, how you manage data, and how you create new rules to have real impact over the safety on your fleet. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, so thank you very much, David. I like those heat maps there. So coming up next is Oscar Hoyos from AB-InBev. The floor is yours, Oscar.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you, Daniel. Hi, everybody. Today, I'm going to talk about how the Geotab telematics has allowed us to improve our indicators of road tracking, road safety, and how we improve our productivity. Okay. In Colombia and Peru, we use Geotab. We have approximately 2,000 vehicles with Geotab technology. I'm going to talk about the strategy about the data in the routing tools. Okay, the routing tools has parameters that can change the characteristics of the routes and the reality of the delivery operation. For us, the most important parameters is the curve of time, which allow us to adjust the attention times for each stop and customer. It's important to clarify that for our zone, the time of attention and customer represents the 70% of the total road time. Okay, and in the tool, in the routing tool, we have a parameter that for us is the principal parameter to generate the best routes possible, and is the curve time. The curve time has two indicators: the constant value, that is basically the administrative customer attention time, and the calculated value, that is obtained by the volume of the boxes per stop, and the factor that is extracted directly from Geotab data according to the stop time customer by customer. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the routing tools have other parameters and allow us to fine tune the tool to obtain routes according to the priority of the business. It's important it's important for our zone and our priorities at the road time and the kilometers traveled. And some main parameters are the DC time of departure, the preparation time, the peak hour, the service time curve, the maximum waiting time before customer, the LNB mesh speed, and the road cost. Thanks to correct parameterization of the routing tool and the permanent management and monitoring, in 2018 we had a reduction of the 7% in kilometers traveled per route, and improved 2% fleet availability, which represents very significant saving for our company in occasional trucks rental. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the daily monitoring of the delivery execution and the road planning has allowed us to generate continuous feedback to the routing terms. For correct parameterization of the routing tools, we have also been able to improve the georeferencing quality of our customers and adjust the speed of our LNB network according to average speed of the vehicles in Geotab. Okay, this has allowed us to create much more realistic routes sequences, improving the delivery execution by almost 5%, focus on improving the fuel consumption, less distance by travel, and attend at least the 90% of our customers. Okay, next slide, please. The Geotab platform and the telematics tool help us in to reduce the speedings in 97% of the speedings in 24 months. In October of 2016, the Colombian AB-InBev fleet generates 2,500 speedings per month. In this moment, our fleet in Colombia just generates 441 speedings for the whole country, which represents that each vehicle generates just 0.37 speedings each month. For us, it's a really good result. And talking about safety topics, we have achieved this stroke preventive management activities like the live comments, joint actions planned with the logistic operation, awareness campaigns for driver about responsibility, about the use of our trucks and management of others created and generated by Geotab. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much too, Oscar. Now, before we go to the Q&A part of the webinar, Eduardo is going to sum up our discussion. Go ahead, Eduardo.
Thank you, Daniel. So yes, again, Latin American countries are taking measures to increase safety and reduce road fatalities. Accidents can be prevented by monitoring driver behavior and providing feedback, either through notification, beeps, or voice messages. For example, as we saw previously, with Go7 device emitting beeps, or using the iOX GoTalk. Data and analytics can help communities to identify risk areas and take measures to prevent accidents, as we saw when we talk about hazardous driving conditions. Data captures through risk management reports can help reinforce company safety policies and to create an even playing field within organizations, enforcing fair practices. That's about the example that I shared with you about this leading pest control company that works with us. Telematics combined with an open platform, expandability, capability, and big data can help to improve fleet and driver safety in Latin America and all around the world. And finally, safety and all related benefits translate into transforming fleets from being cost centers to profit drivers. So this is a win-win situation for all. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Great, Eduardo, great. So now it's time to move on to the Q&A part of our webinar. If you have not already done so, listeners, feel free to send in your questions by using our chat function. And I will ask our speakers here. Remember that this is being recorded so that you'll be able to review this webinar online later. So actually, we already have our first question, and I guess maybe this could be for Mr. Granda. Eduardo, could you explain a little bit more in detail how the fleet managers are notified once an accident occurs, and how long after the accident will they be notified? You said instantaneously, but if you could explain a little bit more, please.
Yes, Daniel. Accidents are detected by the Geotab Go device upon any acceleration greater than equal to 2.5 G with up to a G-force of 2.5 G. The system can be configured to send out email or text messages notifications to fleet managers when drivers trigger events. So yes, it'll be instantly, almost instantly, for sure.
Nice, nice. Okay, our next question over here is, let me see. It says over here, how have your employees, I guess it's for maybe for David, how have your employees reacted to the implementation of telematics? And are they open to the idea? And how do you explain its importance to them?
That is the very most important challenge in telematics deployment, because basically they see this as a risk for them, for their jobs. They feel supervised, and they don't like this. We have in some customers a situation that goes up to the government and get demands, but our psychologists do that specifically. What they do, they rearrange all the communication channel. They make sensibilization sessions, and they start to giving them all the improvements that they are going to have related with the pocket. Basically, they understand and they see that they start to have more money based on fuel savings and maintenance. So when the drivers start to see that and get sensibilized around safety, and our psychologists show them videos based on accidents and the panels flying, and it's a really nice strategy where the driver understands that this is a benefit for them. Besides that, Geotab has demonstrated accuracy in data. We have a situation where the government demands us to make with a certified lab some tests showing that our information are really first secure, and second one accurate. So when you speak with the driver and you show that certificate and you go up to the road and show them, okay, this is what we are going to do, harsh braking, go to this speed, let's compare with your device, the dashboard and the GPS in your cell phone, and you can find that the speed is the same, they get to say, okay, I got it. I cannot find with this, I have to use it. And it's really good. It's really good.
Nice. I have one here for Oscar. Oscar, how often do you do training or talks with your drivers to enhance driver behavior? And also, which type of content do you include? Is it the same content every time?
Okay, we have a lot of sessions with our drivers, because obviously they feel that in some cases we are trying to control his driving habits, but in this moment they understand that this tool, that the telematic, the Geotab, is for his own safety, and in this moment they feel that the Geotab, the GPS is an advantage for him. So in this moment they have a really good feelings about this tool and our control tower transport, our transport control tower.
Actually, I have another one, Oscar, for you. Someone's just asking, what are the specific activities, besides what you have already mentioned over here, what are the specific activities that AB-InBev is doing to reduce their safety metrics? Is there anything else you can elaborate on as far as the specific activities?
Okay, in this moment we have a transport control tower. We have a team with like 11 professionals for safety. We have many others created in the platform. Others like the experience, like possible accidents, like enforced break-ins, like ideal, and we have campaigns because we understand that this is a really cultural topic with the drivers. We have rankings, with driver rankings, with the best and the worst drivers, and obviously we use the mails with information about specific drivers that every day has or have speedings, and we have the support, obviously, of the logistic operations of the manager to improve these indicators. And obviously, for our company, the most important always is the safety of our drivers, and all the people on the street. For us, is the most important in this moment.
Okay, sounds good. And I'm reading over here that someone's just asking, is wondering what are the major challenges in Latin America fleet management in terms of safety and fuel consumption? Maybe we can ask David or Eduardo, who do you think should tackle this question here?
David, would you like to take that, basing an example of your customers?
So I don't know, maybe you think, David, more as the challenges in Latin America in terms of safety and also in fuel consumption. Do you find any challenges that you can highlight?
Yeah, sure. Basically, the culture here in Latin America is based on the main truck, and the fleet owners are a lot. Basically, here in Latin America, you have one owner and one or two trucks. 95% of the fleet are composed by these kind of owners. So in this way, it's really difficult to understand all the data and all the challenges related with this data, how to improve that. But we have made a really good work with companies like AB-InBev, because they are sometimes contractor of AB-InBev company like them. And they start to manage these and demands devices like Geotab over these operations, and they start to be more effective in getting involved with this kind of information, with this kind of projects. Of course, it's a challenge from the side of culture. Our culture is a really basic one. We have infrastructure problems. We have an overdose of trucks, and based on the amount of vehicles that we have in Latin America, the fleet costs are really, really high, and the freight invoicing is too low too. So it's a huge challenge here, because now the one who is not efficient is from that. He's going to disappear. So they are understanding that, they are afraid of how we can do the same with less money, how we can do everything internet. It's a long task here in Latin America, but it's working because we are getting broke. So we are working with that, we are getting to them, we are working in pricing, we are working how we can go further with more information, easy information. And of course, we have projects with like AB-InBev, but oriented to the small fleet manager, based on how we can present data in an easy way. So Navisaf command and other comments connected and other stuff related to engines, driving behavior, and fleet management data presented really easy. So in that, how we add value levels, we're working really good. And in the next weeks, we are going to start finding over our social media, all these kind of applications.
Okay, I have a question over here about GDPR. So it's about data privacy. In terms of elaborating a bit on data privacy and how do you address this with large accounts? So I don't know, would this be something for you, Eduardo? Or...
Thank you. Well, that's basically tailored for Europe, GDPR. What I can provide some input, for example, is the fact that yes, in order to be able to comply with that, we have a way of using, for example, the device can be set to privacy mode, which means that the person using the device, a driver for a given company, the device will stop reporting when the person arrives to his house, for example. But that requires a little bit more further clarification, because we have not seen that in Latin America. That's more tailored for the European market.
Yeah, GDPR. Okay, let me just go on to the next one over here. It looks like for Oscar here. Oscar, do you also have telematics for your management vehicles? And how do you go with possible employee and work council resistance when adopting telematics? Yeah, do you find any resistance or not? Or for Oscar?
Hello? Excuse me. I can listen the question.
Could you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
This is for Oscar, and then also they're just asking, how do you go with the possible employee and work council resistance when adopting telematics? Do you find any resistance in adopting the telematics, and how do you deal with that?
Okay. Obviously, in the beginning, the drivers felt that this was a monitoring for them. In the beginning, the company, the drivers don't like the telematics and the Geotab in his trucks. And in the past, when the truck go out to the DC of the depot, we don't have information about what happened in the street. And obviously, in this moment, we have control about all the activities that they make in the street, about the customers that they visit, about the speed that each truck is have on the street, about each point, about obviously with the alerts created in the platform. We have alerts so specific about the specific zones, because obviously in Latin America we have security problems, so we have to create zones specific for specific areas or zones. We have all the view about what happened in each city, what happened with each truck, and obviously working with others, because we don't have 2,000 people to monitoring 2,000 trucks. We have to work with others created in the platform in this moment. But obviously, in this moment, they understand that the telematic is an advantage for them. In this moment, each truck has a panic button that they push when they have some dangerous situation. We have information about what happened. We can call to the police, and the police attend the truck that have the situation.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we actually had a similar question for David, but I guess someone wanted to ask Oscar about this. I guess this next question over here is just a minute, please. I'm scrolling through my program, and this over here is for Eduardo.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, Eduardo, and when implementing telematics programs, is it also recommended to use they're mentioning the carrot and stick approach? So for example, create incentives for the good drivers and penalties for the bad ones. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yes.
Can I use this one, Eduardo, after you, please?
Yes, definitely. Let me provide an initial introduction, and definitely, David, please continue. Yes, it is definitely It is definitely a very good idea to use it to motivate drivers to be good drivers. I'm sorry for being redundant. We have an IOX that I forgot to mention, input output expander, which is the NFC reader, which means that every driver can be identified, because companies who own fleets have normally more than one driver per vehicle. Let's say that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 or more drivers per vehicle. The fleet manager will always be knowing who the actual driver of that given vehicle is. And yes, you definitely can stable a system, a way of classifying them, who's the best, who needs a little bit of attention to become the best, and so on. So definitely it's a good approach. David, please continue.
Yes, sure. But from the side of psychological way to see it, it's really recommended not to use money to reward drivers or punish them. Basically, our best practices are related with emotional salaries or rewards, emotional rewards. As you know, the driver is a person, lonely person, which stays a lot of days out of his home. His family is really far away from their point of work, and the most important and most valued rewards are related with time with their family. When you give them 2 days, 3 days, 4 days at the month to the best driver to spend with their family, paid that days as they work, you're going to get more motivated to do the right thing. So basically, is our recommendation when you go and use money passes like Sodexo Pass or stuff like that, that is not regulated as a payment from the company. That works really good because they go to the wife and said, okay, honey, I get this reward. Please use him to buy food or buy something for you or stuff like that. It's really important. We have cases where the wife of the driver came to the company and says, why my husband doesn't get the prize this month? What did you do bad? Because I usually get this one, and stuff like that. You start finding it's really funny to understand how they value inside the family these kind of rewards. So it's something human. It's something that they really use in things that they don't have all the time. What is that? Quality time, and family benefits. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Due to time constraints of this webinar, I mean, we have some other questions, but we need to cut it short.
Daniel, can I interrupt you? I just wanted to clarify something about the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. There's
the one mentioned about GDPR,
Yeah, there's some very interesting information about that at the geotab.com blog, written by a legal counsel. So please, everybody listening to this webinar, please feel free to browse into that, because it is very important and Geotab is compliant with GDPR. That article, the blog in particular, addresses all the issues and explains a little bit how we do that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, there's a lot of information for us all here, and I just want to thanks to all you guys for the insight. Eduardo Granda from Geotab, David Escobar S from Navisaf, Oscar Hoyos, of course, from AB-InBev, and of course, Geotab. And to you, our listeners, just to wrap up here on the final slide, remember that a recorded version of this broadcast will be available on globalfleet.com. And also, to maintain the quality of our webinars, we invite you to answer our satisfaction survey. Finally, we have Fleet LatAm is present on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And you can also contact myself at the email here, or also Geotab at the email address on the screen, if you have any more questions. I have some other questions here that I have on file, and I will save them and forward them to the appropriate people. But until next time, thanks to all. Goodbye from Global Fleet and Fleet LatAm.